Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. In this video, we will be following one of the most controversial and sensitive fishing practices on the ocean: whaling. From industrial hunting ships to traditional methods using small boats, this compilation video will show the scale and methods of humans hunting these giant creatures. A large whaling ship, fully equipped with specialized equipment and weapons including the infamous whaling cannon, is preparing to go into action. Join us to watch the whole whaling process on today's program. The whale guns opened fire. A loud bang rang out across the ocean, and the sharp spearhead struck the giant prey. The whale thrashed violently, creating swirling waves of white foam, a haunting struggle between life and death on the cold sea. The whale was still struggling to break free from its fateful rope, steam billowing from its blowhole like its last gasps. But it didn't stop there. A second shot was fired, piercing the water and aimed straight at its exhausted body. Each time, its life seemed to be gradually suffocated in the vast ocean. In the icy waters covered with drifting ice, the whale was now completely exhausted. Its last throbs were becoming feeble. The workers on board began to deploy the tow rope system and hydraulic machinery. Little by little, its massive body was lifted out of the icy water, slowly sliding into the ship's hull, ending a fierce chase between man and the giant creature of the ocean. The giant whale was pulled from the deep, blood staining the water behind the ship. The hatch opened, preparing for the next stage. On deck, workers quickly took their positions. With large knives, they began the butchering process, cutting up each part of the massive body for commercial purposes. A cold series of procedures, performed thousands of times before, was now repeated precisely and ruthlessly. The whale's massive body was gradually cut away, revealing the thick layer of fat and bright red meat inside. Blood splattered across the deck, mixing with the steam rising from the slashes. Huge chunks of meat, weighing tons, were lifted by hydraulic cranes and gradually transferred to the processing compartment. This was the stage where the most valuable part of the whale was separated, the end of a journey from hunting to processing. In contrast to modern industrial ships, in another corner of the ocean, local fishermen still maintain the traditional and manual way of hunting whales. On primitive boats, without supporting machinery, without modern weapons, only sharp spears and human hands, they wait, observe, and then put all their strength into a decisive launch. The hunt is deeply cultural, but also full of risks and fierceness. But not every hunt ends in victory. After hours of fierce struggle in the deep water, the whale fought back fiercely. With enormous force, it crushed the fragile boat, throwing the fishermen into the sea. It was a dramatic and haunting scene where man and nature clashed, and the line between life and death became more fragile than ever. On the bow of the boat, a brave fisherman clutched his spear, jumped down with all his might. In determination, the spear went straight into the whale's body, creating a fatal blow. The screams echoed across the sea. A few hours later, the wound began to take effect. The whale thrashed violently, seawater splashed, blood gradually spread all around. The hunt that seemed to have failed now entered its final stage, with both sides paying the price. Finally, after much effort and danger, the whale lay motionless under the deep blue water. Two small wooden boats were now joined together. The ropes were firmly fixed. The fishermen joined forces to pull the giant animal's body towards the shore. Each heavy stroke seemed to contain all the human strength, the story of survival and culture that has existed for generations. Finally, after much effort, the fishermen got the expected result. The giant whale, a symbol of ocean life, was now in their hands. But before turning back to land, the men on the small boat quietly bowed their heads in prayer. Not only was it a thank you to the sea, but also a respect for the soul of the creature that had just passed away, a silent ritual containing many generations of tradition. A few days later, the whale's body drifted close to shore, lying quietly in the middle of the blue water as a testament to the fierce battle for survival that had just taken place. The locals quietly observed from afar, without noise, without commotion, only the echoes of an old story, repeated through many generations between humans and the ocean remained. And then, when the whale carcass was pulled closer to shore, the fishermen in the village and their neighbors quickly gathered together. Without anyone telling them, each piece of fresh meat was shared, not only a precious food, but also the result of a harsh sea voyage. This was a moment when the community came together to share the fruits of their labor, following the long-standing custom in coastal fishing villages. The giant whale now lay completely motionless on the ground. The black and white stripes along its belly stood out like a strange picture of nature. Carefully pulled ashore by machinery, it became the center of attention of the whole area. Adults, children, and even slaughterhouse workers were present, preparing for the final stage, butchering and separating each part according to the correct procedure. In the middle of the workshop under the blazing sun, the giant whale began to be processed. Workers with rubber gloves, non-slip boots, and specialized cutting tools proceeded to dissect the body. Each slice cut deep into the thick skin, opening up the red meat and white fat inside. Blood and water washed onto the cement floor, creating a scene that was both cold and overwhelming when the great nature was reduced to human hands. In the middle of the workshop under the blazing sun, the giant whale began to be processed. Workers with rubber gloves, non-slip boots, and specialized cutting tools proceeded to dissect the body. Each slice cut deep into the thick skin, opening up the red meat and white fat inside. Blood and water washed onto the cement floor, creating a scene that was both cold and overwhelming when the great nature was reduced to human hands. Once again, the giant whaler sets out into the deep, its engines roar, cutting through the whitecaps as the crew scans the water for whales. The next hunt is underway, weapons ready, crew in position. A new hunt begins, continuing the cycle between man and the iconic creatures of the ocean. Finally, the whale was brought down after a tense chase through the rough waves and cold ocean. An orange buoy was attached to its body to keep it from sinking. The rope was pulled tighter, and the ship slowly approached to prepare to bring the giant prey aboard. The sea still churned around, but the hunt was over, marking another victory for humans in the ancient battle between wisdom and the forces of nature. The whale, after being brought back, now lies quietly in a modern processing warehouse. Its giant body with its characteristic belly grooves now covers the cold floor. Workers are preparing to enter the final stage, dissecting, separating each part of meat, fat, and organs for preservation and processing. A giant creature of the ocean now lies in the heart of industry and humans. Deep, precise cuts were made along the thick skin and blubber beneath. The whale's massive body was slowly split open, revealing the deep red flesh inside. Large chunks of meat were cut off, ready for the next steps of sorting and preserving. The process required skill, speed, and no hesitation, because every minute that passed meant nutritional and economic value was changing. The journey ends here, from the deep sea to the deck, from the fatal dives to the final cuts. The whale, the iconic creature of the ocean, lies on the cold floor, each piece of flesh cut out, carrying with it both the value of survival and the never-before-answered ethical question. And you, what do you think about whaling tradition, livelihood, or need to end? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to follow the next videos on the channel.